Welcome to the Rooted Goddess podcast with your host, Leslie Sprague, where we talk all things wellness, woo-woo, life, and everything in between. As a small-town mom of two amazing kiddos, I understand the challenges of what it's like to stay grounded and go after your dreams. My goal for this podcast is to inspire you to root down so you can grow stronger, rise up, and let your light shine bright so you can be the goddess you are truly meant to be. Think of this as your one-stop shop. It's happy hour with a gal pal while getting truthful and heartfelt about taking the steps forward to living your best life. Welcome to the Rooted Goddess podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Sprague. So today I want to talk to you about how you want to feel. It's an interesting concept because quite often we use our mind and think that we know what we want. We set goals for ourselves, and then when we reach that goal, quite often there's an empty void filled. And when that happens, it's because it's not a part of the goal. The goal has nothing to do with it. We are chasing a feeling that we think the goal will give us. This is a concept that was brought about by Danielle Laporte, and she is the author of The Desire Map. And I love the way that she talks about this because instead of setting just goals, for example, she brings you into your heart first. And quite often, we forget about our heart. We forget that this is one of the most vital pieces of the puzzle. We get caught up in our mind. And this is why quite often I say, instead of body, mind, and soul, I say body, heart, and soul, because I want people to get in tune with their heart. Don't get me wrong, the mind is a very important piece, but quite often we let our mind fuck us, and we think we know what we want, or we overanalyze things, or we worry, well, am I making the right decision? Like we just go round. The mind can drive us crazy. So this is why I love the concept of getting out of your head. Quite often we're in there way too much. And I do have some tips for you in another episode about how to deal with your monkey mind, but they'll come later. So let's get back to this concept of starting with the heart. When we figure out how we want to feel, whether we set the goal for a year, or whether we set it for longer than that, or whatever it is, how do you want to feel in your life? Do you want your life to constantly be an uphill battle? Do you want your life to have more ease in it? Do you want clarity in your life, connection, more joy? Get clear with the things that you want to feel first. And then when you go to create your goal for whatever it is, whether it's your personal health and wellness, or it's your business, or whatever, your work, whatever it is, then have a look at the goal and say, does this align with how I want to feel? Because if I'm doing it in reverse and I'm setting the goal because I think that this goal will make me feel such and such a way, I invite you to look at that again, because quite often you hear of people talking about this, and happiness, for example, they thought that the big business and the big house and all these things, having all these things, and I'll get into the subject of things in a minute, and having all these things is what will bring them the happiness. But how many times do we hear of people getting those things, but they're still unhappy? It's because they haven't done the internal work first. They didn't start with the heart and look at their values and what's important for them. Quite often, they're filling the void with stuff. And this, I just love this concept because we forget the heart. We tend to lead with our mind, and I want to shift people's focus on that and get them in touch with their heart. Because when we get in touch with our heart, there tends to be more love, more joy. It helps us to take a moment and pause and look at, okay, is this going to be in alignment with how I want to feel, instead of obtaining stuff? So for me, when I look at the goals I have for my business, and it's it's about how I can impact the world with my business. When we obtain when we reach our goals, let's get back to the concept of goals. I think goals are very important. And this is something that I've been struggling with. Um, I have historically been the type of person who would set a goal and then not do any action with it, not follow through, and then I'd be like, "Oh, I hate goal setting. It doesn't do anything." But there's one common denominator here in the goal that I was achieving, and that was me. I didn't do the steps. I didn't do the necessary work. So with goals, it when we reach a certain when we reach that certain goal we're going for, whether it's a personal goal or a business goal or something like that, when we reach that goal, it's like climbing a mountain. Once you reach the top of that mountain, and I've never climbed a mountain before, but I'm just assuming that when you get up there, you have a whole new viewpoint. So then from that point, we see more possibilities, more opportunities, and you're seeing things from a whole new light. And so when we think we reach a certain point and that'll be good enough, it's not the case, because then you realize, oh, yes, Now I see that I want to do this, and we're constantly growing and shifting and changing, which is why I love that Danielle Laporte brings us back to our heart. It brings us back because it keeps us centered. It's the center of our body. It keeps us centered. It keeps us present. It keeps us humble. So my question to you is, how do you want to feel? Thank you so much for listening, and let me give you a virtual hug, oh, big squeeze, as a token of my appreciation. At the very least, I hope you had some fun while listening, and maybe even learned a thing or two. And bonus points if I got a chuckle out of you. If you liked this episode, it would mean the world to me if you could leave me a 5-star review, or if you know someone who could benefit from listening, share it on your Insta stories and tag me at Leslie's Yoga and Wellness. Subscribe to this channel if you want to stay up to date with new episodes. By doing these things, it helps to get my podcast noticed so that people who need to hear my message are more attracted to it. Please feel free to stop by my website, lesliespragg.com, and grab a copy of my free Mom Self-Care Kit. While you're there, grab a free few yoga classes. Namaste, goddesses. Until next time.